Gold is supposed to rise in a crisis. That's the rule everyone knows. When the world becomes uncertain, people run to gold because it is considered a safe haven asset. But right now, something doesn't add up. Even as global tensions are rising, gold prices have fallen sharply from the recent highs. And that creates a very uncomfortable question. If gold is the safest haven in the world, why is it not behaving like one? Because what you see in the headlines is only half the story. While markets are reacting in the short term, something very different has been happening in the background. Over the past year, the governments around the world have been accumulating large amounts of physical gold. Some are even bringing it back within their own borders. At the same time, wealthy investors are moving it into neutral, secure places like Singapore. So on one side, the prices are crashing. On the other side, the governments who actually understands what is coming are accumulating gold in silence. Now that is a contradiction. So let's understand the story about why is this shift happening, what are countries preparing for, and most importantly, what does this say about the financial system built on the US dollar? America's war on Iran is in full swing, and oil prices have surged above $100 per barrel, reaching peaks nearly $120 per barrel. The financial markets are deeply unstable, but surprisingly, gold prices are down more than 14% since the US-Iran war started. At the start of the month, on March 2nd, the prices of gold were around $5,400 per ounce. Then, as the war actually intensified, it suddenly crashed nearly 14% in a matter of weeks, and now it is sitting at $4,500 per ounce. So the real question is, why is gold failing exactly when it is supposed to rise? If that leaves you confused, you are paying attention. Gold has been the ultimate safe space when global crises have occurred. In 1973, gold rose over 140% after the Arab oil crisis. In 1979, gold spiked around 150% after the Iranian Revolution, and in 2020, gold rose about 30% after the COVID-19 pandemic. Our instinct to buy gold during the times of crisis is not exactly wrong, but what if I told you that this knowledge is incomplete and there is a much bigger story to this? Let's understand this in depth. See, now Iran has blocked the Strait of Hormuz, and we are feeling the jitters all over the world because oil is not just the fuel in your car. Oil is the cost of transporting food to your local market. Oil decides the electricity bill for your manufacturing plants. So when crude oil prices shoot up globally, the entire supply chain becomes more expensive overnight, and that triggers the single biggest fear in the global economy, and that is called inflation. When a geopolitical shock pushes up oil prices and creates the risk of worldwide inflation, investors begin to look for assets that are not just safe but also provide returns. So gold may be a safe haven asset, but it does not generate income. It is simply sitting in the vault. But the US Treasuries and the short-term dollar assets, on the other hand, are highly liquid, widely trusted, and offer an interest rate. Investors did not just move to the Treasuries, they moved aggressively into cash and short-term dollar assets, while simultaneously reducing exposure to gold. And most of that short-term selling was not coming from ordinary people. It was coming from fast money, that is funds, ETF holders, and large traders selling paper gold on screens. Now that's important because the short-term price of gold is often moved by financial selling and not by physical gold bars suddenly disappearing from the vaults. In short term, money is not chasing safety. It is chasing liquidity and yield together. So capital moved out of gold and into the instruments that could provide both immediate usability and immediate returns. That is why during the inflation-driven global shock, gold did not behave like the first choice safe haven. I know that you might have a question in your mind, what are these treasuries bonds in the first place? So let's understand what these treasury bonds are. The United States government issues bonds called as US Treasuries. Think of a treasury simply as a loan you give to the American government, and these are dollar-denominated assets. If an Indian investor or a foreign central bank wants to buy this asset, they first have to convert their local currency into US dollars. So the American government takes those dollars, promises to return them, and pays a fixed rate of interest to those investors. Right now, the US government bonds are offering roughly around 4 to 5% annual yields, which is highly attractive in a volatile environment. Now you imagine you are a massive institutional investor like a BlackRock or a Vanguard managing trillions of dollars. You face a clear choice over here. You can hold your gold and earn nothing, or you can hold the US government debt and collect a steady government-backed return. Now this creates a powerful shift in behavior. So investors move into cash for immediate liquidity, allocate to short-term treasuries for safety and yield, and reduce exposure to the assets like gold that do not generate income. That choice triggers a massive chain reaction across the markets in the world. So it does not really matter if Washington is making controversial decisions, if its allies are stepping back, or if its own administration is fracturing under the pressure inside their own economy. In moments of stress, the global system still pulls capital toward the US dollar. Now, this happens because global trade, especially oil, is priced in dollars. So when oil becomes more expensive, countries like India need more dollars to pay for the imports. And to manage and hold these dollars safely, capital often moves into the US treasuries and short-term dollar instruments. Now this leaves us with a contradiction. If the gold is falling in the middle of a global crisis, you would expect the smartest money to abandon it, right? Well, that exact opposite is happening. Right now, central banks across the world are still accumulating large amounts of physical gold, and in some cases, bringing gold closer to home or into neutral jurisdictions. Central banks across India, China, Turkey, and Poland are systematically holding physical blocks of gold. This behavior radically accelerated after the United States and its Western allies froze hundreds of billions of dollars in Russian reserves. And this was a blow to the trust in the international markets. Suddenly, countries realized that the digital assets held abroad could be weaponized overnight. For decades, nations comfortably left their gold sitting in London or New York. Today, they are chartering cargo planes to repatriate that wealth, bringing it directly back inside their own borders. Owning gold is no longer enough. The new rule is about controlling exactly where that gold sits. Wealthy investors also, at the same time, and family offices are making a same move. Now, they're increasingly diversifying their wealth away from traditional financial hubs like London and Geneva and moving it in places like Singapore. In 2025 alone, gold investment demand in Singapore jumped 48% to a record 9.6 tons. Now, why is Singapore chosen as a safe haven? Well, Singapore is chosen for very specific reasons. It is seen as a politically stable and neutral jurisdiction with strong property rights and a legal system built around financial trust. This is why banks like OCBC Bank are now exploring physical gold custody services as demand from the wealthy clans continue to rise. Now, here's what most people don't understand. There are two different ways of owning gold. The first is paper gold, things like ETFs and gold bonds. So when you buy these, you don't actually get gold, you get a financial claim that moves with price of the gold. If you sell it, you get money back and not the gold. The second is physical gold itself, which is real bars stored in a vault, and that is direct ownership, no contract, no middle layer. Now, this difference becomes very important in a crisis because in normal times, people are happy owning paper gold. It's easy, it is liquid, and it tracks the price. But in stressed times, the question changes. It's no longer, what is my return? It becomes, do I actually control my wealth? So it looks like a contradiction. Gold is falling, but gold is also being bought. But once you understand the difference, it makes perfect sense. Short-term money is trading price. Long-term money is securing control. If you want to know whether gold is under pressure, watch three things very closely. You need to watch the dollar, you need to watch the treasury yields, and you need to watch that where the money is rushing. So the world is not abandoning the American financial system. Countries are still using dollars for the global trade and they are still holding US treasuries to earn steady and government-backed returns. But they are simply no longer giving the system blind trust. This tension leads us to a much bigger question. What does the silent accumulation of gold actually tell us about the future of the global financial system? A financial system can be deeply flawed, yet it can still remain the most usable option on the planet. The US dollar continues to rule the global economy because it executes three critical jobs better than any other competing currency. First, it acts as the absolute language of global trade. Second, the dollar provides a highly secure parking lot for the global wealth through the US Treasury market. Third, it offers unmatched liquidity. The American financial system is not dominant because it is perfect. It remains dominant because it is deeply, irreversibly embedded in how the world operates. So you might hear constant headlines, the world is rapidly dumping US Treasuries. Well, that sounds dramatic because it is only the half the story. Yes, some countries are reducing their exposure over time on the US Treasuries. China, for example, has brought its Treasury holdings down significantly from earlier peaks, and countries like India have also trimmed their positions at the margin as a part of broader diversification. But at the same time, other major players are doing exactly the opposite. Japan, for example, is the largest foreign holder of US Treasuries and has increased its holding to over $1.2 trillion. Financial centers like the United Kingdom have also increased their allocations. So the reality is not a global exit, it is gradual rebalancing. The world is not abandoning US Treasuries. It is slowly reducing overdependence while still relying on them as the core of the system. So when we ask whether gold or the dollar will ultimately win, the answer entirely depends upon the timeline, because during the very first phase of the global crisis, panic takes over. And in that moment of chaos, absolute liquidity, institutional stability, and immediate usability are the only things that matter. And that's the reason that people don't move towards gold and they start moving towards easy cash. The dollar and the US Treasuries will always dominate that initial shockwave. When that crisis drags on and turns into a prolonged era of geopolitical uncertainty, the rule flips completely. Trust, resilience, and sovereign independence becomes the most valuable traits on the earth. And in that extended phase, physical gold becomes the ultimate victor. So as they say, systems don't collapse in a day, they collapse gradually and then suddenly. So for the sudden collapse, the investors of the world are preparing themselves. The price of the gold going up or down is not the real story. The real story is what is happening underneath it. Country by country, vault by vault, the world is quietly reducing its dependence on a system built entirely around bank currency. Central banks are diversifying, investors are moving wealth into neutral hands, and the nations that once parked everything in New York and London are now bringing it back home. So, watch the vaults and not the headlines.